Andy did not work out for the Catholic Cougars on Friday night. So it was valiant effort in the championship game. They kept it close for a little bit, but the other team was they just were better. Like that's the end of some days the other team is just better. Our girls are really good. Obviously, you don't make it to the state finals and not be good. But this other team is kind of like a little tier above. It seems like they just a lot more stronger and athletic, I think. And so, and they just ran some plays that were just unstoppable. So good season for the Catholic Cougars. I think they'll be better next year, and maybe they'll be back in the championship game again. But yeah, a good season, valiant effort on the. It definitely looked like by the middle of this year there weren't going to be a championship game to go to, and here we were. So I think it was a good season, Andy.
Dave, I mean, like the Detroit Lions, I'm confident that the team will be back next year and maybe make a run for the championship. So, good run. Happy for your daughter. Happy for the Pounder household. Next year, you guys can go get. But actually, you mentioned the name. Is this Catholic League that you're in, or is this just like a religious warfare going on down there in North Carolina, where the
No,
Catholics are battling
they
the Protestants and
yeah, no, well, there is it's Charlotte Catholic is what my daughter goes to. There's also Charlotte Latin and a Charlotte Christian school.
oh man.
Christian, there's a lot of private schools down in this area. I think a lot of the main cities have a lot of private schools. Differently though, here there is a private and a public league, but our girls play in the public league because there's a lot more teams there. The competition's generally a little bit tougher. The team we played, Cardinal Gibbons, is also a Catholic school as well. But they're in the public league too. So it's an interesting dynamic. I know some states have it broken down by size. Some, in Maryland, they have famously the MIAA, which is the private schools in the Baltimore area. They're separate, and so yeah, no, this is yeah, it's a Catholic school, and there is like mass every week, and it's good stuff, but not religious warfare.
I
So,
heard if you remember growing up in the DC area, we had two very dominant Catholic schools in DeMatha and Carroll that just
yep.
crushed other schools in the DC area. I think Chase Young, former Washington Commander, former San Francisco 49er, I think now a Texan, maybe Houston Texan perhaps. But I think he was a graduate of one of those two schools himself. But yeah, some of those schools really play big time sports. They recruit a lot of talent. They play
Yep.
very competitively. So it's good to see Catholics still trying to violently take over the world, Dave. Glad you guys are a part of
Yeah, if yeah, they're part of the Illuminati, I would think somewhere along the line there somewhere. I'm sure there's some shady shit that has gone on through the history of all of these places. So good stuff. How was your weekend, Andy?
Dave, it was good. As discussed, I retrieved my eldest, my college graduate from university, completing 3 weeks of being on the road, which has been a daunting challenge for my schedule, to be honest with you. But had an interesting drive. Had a big old Penske truck, which, by the way, those max out at 75 miles per hour. Not that I would exceed the speed limit, but it's an interesting thing when you're going and like you just can't go any faster.
Fantastic.
It's uh,
Yep.
it's it's uh, I felt like I was being shackled and unfairly treated by the Penske people. But I actually enjoyed the drive and had some interesting experiences along the way, Dave. It was interesting.
Yeah, you go through some different parts of the country through there, Andy.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. So let me tell you a little bit about one experience I had, David.
okay.
So you know this stretch of roads. For those who don't know, Highway 81 is the route taken, and 81 stretches through a nice part of the country. It goes all the way down north south into Tennessee, where it takes a turn west, which is beautiful. It becomes a beautiful drive down there, but it's nice the whole way. But 81 takes you through some nice parts of Virginia and some interesting parts of Virginia. So I pulled up, Dave, at the Sheets on exit 222, which is Staunton, Virginia, which is sort of, old Virginia, Dave. It's old Virginia, we'll say. And so I was sitting there filling up my big Penske truck, and I was doing a walk around to make sure everything looked okay on this rental that I'd gotten. As I turn the corner on my truck, I look and it's one of those moments where you kind of do a double take, kind of minor head explosion. Am I in reality? And Dave, we've talked about this before, but still blows my mind. I look and just close your eyes, Dave, and picture whatever comes to mind. whoever comes to mind. I see a guy in his dark red truck with this just big old Confederate flag jacket on, giant Confederate flag hanging in a pole in the back of his truck. And I just paused and like instantly warmed up from toe to head with like screaming anger. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me right now?" And so it took me a second to process my reality as I saw this. Like, is this guy really fucking walking around like this, getting gas in his truck? I was like, okay, I've got a couple options here. I can ignore, which I felt like is telling him, hey, it's okay. Like, hey, it's cool that you're walking around like this, which he has every right to do. Freedom of speech, freedom of expression. He's got every right to dress how he wants, right? So I can't tell him not to do it. But at the same time, I don't necessarily approve of it, right? Two, I can confront him, but I don't want to necessarily in any way aggressively confront the guy. He has the freedom to be a douche if he wants to be a douche, and he was being a douche, and he's free to be that way. Or I can just try and annoy him, which is what I wanted to do. So in my mind, I made a resolution. I was going to go and say something to him to try and get under the guy's skin. I won't go into details there, Dave, but I had a pretty good, I think, one-liner geared up in my mind. So I went over, full of adrenaline, pumped up, hung up my gas pump, going back to the truck, and the man drives off. And so I spent the next 20, 30 minutes driving south on Highway 81, just boiling over the scenarios that could have been in my mind as I was dealing with the frustration of seeing this guy, just walking around dressed like a complete and utter douchebag. But it is what it is. That I went. Also, I went back driving back north. I did a round trip. So I went down, got my son Virginia Tech, and came back home. And I deliberately stopped by that same gas station on the way back up, just in hopes I would run into that same character. But he was not there. He was not there, and I had to feel that pain of disappointment as I continued my journey back home. But it's great to have my oldest son back home along with my youngest. The three of us got a great workout in together yesterday, which was super fun to have those guys in the gym with me, and really nice to be back home with them. So it was a good weekend. Good weekend. Some
Yeah,
things
that's good.
aside.
Yeah, those are the type of characters that are like they're wearing that stuff and they're displaying that stuff just to get a rise out of you. They want
Yeah,
you to say something to
yeah.
them so that they can do something there. I mean, their whole message is, I'll be damned if somebody's going to screw up my heritage. I wear this flag proudly, even though it's the flag of secession. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's a loser flag. I mean, ultimately,
yeah,
it's a flag of losers, right? Not only did you lead to the greatest casualties of an American war, which literally hundreds of thousands of American, men dying in unnecessary combat, but also you lost. So it's a fucking loser flag of a losing side, and so wear that proudly. I really, I was happy to give him the thrill he wanted of getting a rise out of somebody. I feel there's a part of me that's dying right now because I'm talking about it and missed that opportunity. So I need to be quicker on it next time. I'll have to remember just let the pump fill and go have that conversation while the truck's filling up. So lesson learned,
there
Dave. Lesson learned.
you go. So bet you'll be better off for it next
I'll
time.
be more prepared. I'll be more prepared.
All right, so let's switch on to other things. Andy, I'll go back to the lacrosse theme a little bit. This is something that just has been continues to rackle me or rankle me or whatever the word is. Yeah, I watched a lot of lacrosse this weekend. There's some good
Yeah.
quarterfinal lacrosse things all going to the final four this weekend. Great games all around. But I came away with one thing. So I'm beginning to wonder if like lacrosse coaches and lacrosse players are like the most unaware or like the fucking dumbest IQ people out there. So, and let me put some context in there. Of course, lacrosse coaches are smart. Of course, lacrosse players have great IQ. But here's a part that always bothers me. Lacrosse has a shot clock. So it's 80 seconds, and you have 20 seconds to advance it over midfield. And then you have, the rest, you have to shoot, right? And then, it can reset to 60 seconds if you get a save and a rebound, or if it hits off the post or the goalie and you get the rebound there. That's great. It's helped the game tremendously. It's been really good. My problem is with like 20 seconds left in the show. The lacrosse depends a lot on moving the ball around, cutting. They compare it a lot to basketball in
Yeah.
some respects, or soccer and setting things up. the problem is like when you have 20 seconds left, all of a sudden, like, so they pass it around for 60 seconds or 40 seconds, and they may try to make a move, or they may try to find a cut or something, but then they start to panic, and they have these, like, oh my God, I got 20 seconds left. Now I'm just gonna go one-on-one with my player, and I'm gonna spend 5 to 10 seconds just trying to back this player down, not trying to find the open man, not trying to move or anything else. And then they get now 10 seconds or even less than 10 seconds. And hey, put a shot on net. Just put a fucking shot on net. And instead, they'll spend more time. They may pass it to somebody else who, not surprisingly, tries to go one-on-one with his defender. And they wrap it down to like 4 seconds. And they may luckily try to find somebody who's wide open and then get it in there. Otherwise, they say, you know what? I can't do anything with the ball anymore. I'm just going to dump it in the corner of the field so that my offensive players can run off the field and my defensive players can come on the field and reset our stuff. I find it inconceivable that lacrosse has been played for so long, and the shot clock has been in existence now for 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
or however many years it's been. It's been more than one. How do you not have a under 20-second play, go-to play, or 5 plays that you can get a shot on fucking net?
Yeah.
Like, instead, these guys try to go one-on-one, and they go, okay, I'll just dump it in the corner. How do you not have a play to do that? In football, you have the under 2-minute drill, right? You run quickly, you have a series of plays. You have 2-point conversion drills. Like, you have 5 or 6 plays, probably even more go-to plays that you can do this. In basketball, you have the under, out of a timeout play that you can run, and you have a way to get a shot off. The NBA players don't ever sit there and say, hey, it's 2 seconds left in the shot clock, I'm just going to dump it in the corner so I can reset my defense. No, they fucking put up a shot. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter how bad it is or not. They, more often than not, they put up a shot. How do lacrosse players not have this ability to do it? And look, you could say, well, it's one-on-one, the defender's really good. Like, dude, back up and just fire a fucking shot on net. I mean, it's not that hard. That really annoys me, Andy. So,
Yeah.
anyways, it's a rant.
It's fair. It's fair. I mean, lacrosse is an exciting game, and I think you're absolutely right. I think the comparison to basketball is most accurate in this situation, right? I mean, you see a basketball team come in, they call the timeout, they go, they huddle up real quick, they run a play, they get the ball in the shooter's hands, or they're going to make a push towards the basket. They know what they're going to do, and they're going to try it, right? And they've got backup options, but they've got an intended target that's going to make that game-winning shot. And most lacrosse teams have their shooter, right? They know it, the other team knows it. There's a guy or a couple guys or a gal or a couple gals that they want to get that ball to that can take that shot. And I think you're right. It's hard, and they're going to crowd you and try and body you a little bit in men's lacrosse for sure. But you've got to try and get that shot off and give your team a fighting chance to get the win. I think it is intimidating. It is hard. I think the intent of doing that versus reality, once you get the ball, you've got the pressure of the clock, you've got that body pushing against you. It can be difficult for sure, but I think you're right. Like, find a way to get that shot. That should be a practice play during, teams practices. Just get it down to build that confidence and execute. So I agree, but it is exciting. And Dave, it was interesting lacrosse in the Final Four here. Was there a certain game that got you fired up here going into the Final Four?
Well, I mean, it happens in almost all of these games, which is
Yeah,
just confusing to me. But I watched the Johns Hopkins and Virginia game, and we were
yeah,
watching. I was looking. We pulled towards Johns Hopkins because that's my wife went there for grad school, and we had a lot of great memories cheering them on growing up when the kids were younger. There's just so, like, plays. I'm like, there's 10 seconds left, and all of a sudden now there's panic in
yeah,
everybody's things, and they go one-on-one. Look, if you're gonna do that, pull the rest of the team out. Like, pull your defender out and then go one-on-one or something. Like, there's just so many different things. And so what happened is they had 10 seconds left. Hopkins did, and this is in double overtime. And the guy was like trying to pressure something, and he got the ball stripped, and UVA went down and they scored a goal and they won. But but it happens in almost all these games. I just don't know why like they call timeouts. Look, lacrosse coaches are smart. How do we not have a play that can get you a shot with 10 seconds left? As it is, sometimes they'll start the goal, start with the ball behind the net. How do you not have a play to free somebody up to get that done? And I guess that's just where, like, I mean, do you not have that situational awareness? It's in every other sport, they're able to get something done. So, anywho, so just a rant for me, Andy.
It's fair. It's fair. But hey, it'll be fun to see. I mean, you've got Friday, you've got the games being played, the championship on Monday. And Dave, let me ask you, you know the teams better than I do. Notre Dame, probably the favorite, Maryland, Virginia, regulars in these types of rounds. Denver, snuck into the semifinals. Is that a surprise? Is that something you were expecting? Or they had a decent record? Are they better than people thought?
So Denver's been good for about last 10, 12 years or so. They won the national title, I think 2015, 16, 17 time range, one in there, but they haven't been back to the Final Four since then. They had a legendary coach who retired last year after they had been stymied for a little bit. New coach comes in. They're a solid team, but and UVA is tough. And Maryland is always good, though this is somewhat of a down year for them because they've lost more games than they've typically do. Unfortunately, though, Andy, like Notre Dame's going to win it. Like they've got,
Yeah.
I mean, they're too good. I mean, it's almost stupid good. They've got a pair of brothers on the team, the Kavanaugh brothers, that are just stupid sick. I mean, they like cause so many turnovers on the offensive side. They do all sorts of amazing plays, and they're small. That's the crazy thing about them is they're not like big guys. Interestingly enough, on the Notre Dame team, my son Matt played with two of their players on the club team. So like Eric Dobson, one of their big midfielders, and then Carter Parlett, who's a short stick defensive midi. Both of Matt played with them in high school in their club team, so it was fun to see those guys do well. Both of them one got drafted in the PLL, one got picked up in the PLL, so it's kind of fun. So,
Yeah, that's cool. Well, good luck to
but I
those.
hate Notre Dame though, Andy. So like I struggle with that. So
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'm not a fan, but cool to see. Cool to see the
yeah,
teams playing, and good luck to them as they go into their championship weekend here. And also worth noting, Dave, in the English Premier League, Manchester City won an unprecedented fourth straight Premier League title, which is pretty big deal. So my squad there finished in sixth, unfortunately, but it was a good comeback run towards the end. But in English soccer, a big record weekend as Man City pulled out the win. Not surprisingly, as the season wound down. So good to see some big sports action. But Dave, we've covered a lot of sports. Where else are you taking us today?
yeah, Andy. I think we probably need to hit this again. Our QBH, or maybe we've kind of. I think you mentioned it could be Q bitch on there.
Yeah,
Look, every time we mention her on the podcast, next day or the day of, she has some sort of blow up that calls more attention to her. I mean, it's a clown show. Like how is this? How is a member of her district are you sitting there? You're like, yep, she's fighting the good fight for me. So I don't know if you saw Andy, but last week during a hearing, a committee meeting, she got into quite an argument with some of the Democrats, and how petty can it be when you start, talking to people about their eyelashes, and then AOC and Q bitch had a nice little exchange about baby girl, you don't want any of this, and
yeah.
all that fun stuff. Is there more of an embarrassment in? I look. I mean, we talked about the Confederate flag earlier, but like, I mean, she's kind of just trash, isn't she? So
Yeah, I mean, the Cubist just explained that to those who are listening. So, we've been calling Ms. Green QBH for the last several weeks, and it kind of I heard us saying it, and it kind of sounds at times like we're saying Qubitch, as in QAnon, which is it worked out. It's
yeah,
appropriate. So whether it's QBH or QBitch, either way, it works out. But yeah, I mean, one we've talked about before, Dave. Typically talking about the Republicans, really in this case, all characters involved. This sounds like an elementary school playground, right? With just name calling and personal attacks from our eyelashes to our bodies. Or I mean, it's nonsense. It should not be happening in Congress. It's embarrassing, and all involved should be embarrassed by it. But I will say, it was, I think, a pretty quick-witted and funny comeback when Congresswoman Crockett came back and referred to QBH as a bleach blonde, bad built butch body. I thought that was one excellent alliteration. Well played there. Two, I feel like you almost had to have that at the ready. I would have had to. I couldn't have come up with that. So hats off to Ms. Crockett for the quick and timely and accurate description of I don't know what you want to call her, but with the other congresswoman there, inappropriate. It should like that shouldn't happen in Congress, but pretty funny. And so pretty funny comeback. So it's sad to see. QBH has no place in Congress. She's a cartoon character of a person and an embarrassment. Whether you agree with her on issues or not, I don't know what you'd agree with her with. But the whole thing was just a sad example of where Congress is today with childish antics, playground antics in Congress. So the Hill did a good recap of that. The Daily Beast did as well. Several others did. Folks can check out the full comments there. But this is where we are, Dave. This is presidential election season 2024. Congress run amok. A former president and current candidate on trial. A debate of two old men. This is where we are. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what happens when you build congressional districts, or congressional districts are allowed to be designed in a way that only allows one party to be, and a lot of these, while there may be a contender, they have no chance because the party, like the district, is so aligned. We call that anti-gerrymandering, and it would be great to get rid of it. I've seen some really good districts over the last couple weeks of how districts may stretch from one part of the state to the far corner of the state in like a diagonal line. It's amazing how these things happen, but these are the type of individuals you get in Congress. You get people who I don't know, go through these conspiracies. I mean, the QBH's history is long, but not distinguished in this respect. It's just unfortunate that this is where we are with Congress. Andy, there's also news of like RFK obviously is not happy with the debate, him being blocked out of some of these debates. He's saying that he's the only one who's really qualified to be presidential. A lot of stuff going on in politics, Andy. So interesting.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Not necessarily great stuff, but a lot of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But hey, let's put a bow on that fun conversation, Dave.
Yeah. All great stuff, isn't it, Andy? And Andy, I know we're kind of nearing the end here. And what else do you got on your docket? Anything else you want to cover here, Andy?
No, yeah, I think as we go into this, the start of this week, we've got a full week this week. We go into the Memorial Day holiday next week, and I think I'm just appreciating the fact that it's we're getting closer to summer, and everything going on around us. There's a lot to celebrate, despite the nonsense of Congress. We always end up spending more time on sports than we intended. Always fun to just sort of appreciate where we are as we go into these summer weeks and months, and as we look to Memorial Day. A lot of folks getting ready to go out and really kick off the summer, whether it's a beach trip or a camping trip or a barbecue. I've also been thinking about quite a bit this weekend, just how we sometimes lose focus of what Memorial Day is, and I hope that we can pause and reflect on that as we go into the holiday weekend as well. But no, not much else. Just the usual excitement of starting a new week with you, Dave.
Yeah, no, I could completely agree. Yeah, speaking of the important, I guess we can talk more about this in the coming week, but Memorial Day obviously is a very near and dear to our hearts, and it should be near and dear to many people's hearts, because of what it does celebrate and remember those who have died in support in service to the country. And so I think I know I like to have traditional things that I do on Memorial Day. Even when the kids were a little younger, it is interesting to see how things get consumed. There's like sporting events, sports tournaments with a obviously big summer travel kickoff, and school is winding up, and a lot of things, barbecues and pool parties and all this other stuff. And we do often lose sight of that. I do fear that's the overriding message on a lot of this is like the connection to the military continues, I think, to be more and more wider, or the
Yeah.
gap in the connection between you just don't see it as much. Not to say that there aren't a lot of brave men and women who are out there serving and giving to their country, and those families who are supporting them, but I do feel like there is a lot less of a connection there, and I think in a lot of reasons there's a lot of distrust with the military community for I think a lot of years of being misled, or maybe not being as transparent as they can be on a number of different issues, whether that's running the wars or sexual assaults and some of these other things that occur. But a lot of things are happening there, but it's still an important holiday for us in this household. I know for you as well, Andy.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I appreciate all those thoughts and reflections. And like I said, we'll probably talk about it a little bit more as the week goes on. But good start to the week, Dave. Fun to talk about sports again. Sorry for the loss for your daughter, but glad you had a chance to be back in the championships like the Lions. I'm sure you guys are going to be back next year. So a good way to start things out. So hopefully we won't get stuck in too much politics this week, Dave. Hopefully the news will give us a chance to focus on other things. There's so many interesting things happening, from the restart of Blue Origin space tourism to new movies coming out, comic movies coming out, new Captain America movie coming out. There's lots of things for us to enjoy despite the antics of our political leaders, if we want to use that word.
Yeah, and Andy, but we do have probably the hush money trial will probably wrap up this week, so we
Right.
can look forward to that maybe on Friday, Andy.
Yeah.
So,
Yippee.
all right, Andy, let's wrap that for a week. Again, I don't know if we really covered anything of substance for anybody, but hopefully you enjoyed us, you listeners. Hopefully you enjoyed us. So, all right, Andy, I'll catch up with you next time.